Hello guys, and thanks for joining me for part 3 of me oversharing about my life. And thanks again for all the nice comments and stuff, love it. And also I hope everyone's being safe and staying the fuck inside during this pandemic that we're in. Yeah, for me this involves no major alteration to my current lifestyle of constantly isolating myself. And I wisely have ordered extra vape pods and Pellegrino, so I'll be good for the fucking apocalypse. Alright, so in part 2 I think it left off right when I was beginning my heroin addiction, and I started using it with my ex. And also around that time, 2 members of our band who were former addicts relapsed on heroin, so for a while the 4 of us were pretty fucked up. And like the beginning of many addictions, it's all very fun and enjoyable at first, but it obviously quickly gets out of hand. And even when the highs are still good, everything else it takes to be a heroin addict are fucking exhausting. It just constantly having to go from sketchy dealer to even sketchier dealer while being fucking sick, and just dealing with creepy dealers too who are just blatantly waiting for me to cross the threshold of desperation to fuck them for drugs. It's dark shit. So it didn't take too long before I was spending like over $100 a day on it. And plus I was often buying for my boyfriend since I was the more skilled career criminal and more proficient at acquiring large sums of money. I always tried to be somewhat ethical in my criminality. Like I would have rules, like I would only steal from like major corporations. I used to steal books. Like if you steal a copy of the DSM, that shit goes for like $100+. So I was doing stuff like that, and I worked for a larger company and I stole from them. Yeah. But I never stole from a person, so I guess that's a little okay. It's all very bad. I'm very bad. So I had avoided needles thus far since my first experience went so badly using them. But eventually I hit a wall again where I just could not afford to get high. I was exhausted of running around stressing about money, seeing creepy dealers, getting fucking robbed, and being sick constantly with no payoff. It's a nightmare fucking way to live, and I was only 5 or 6 months in. I found myself at a crossroads of either using needles, prostituting myself, or quitting. Fortunately, I had a rare moment of clarity and decided to go to Detox. My dad was still on and off heroin and methadone, so he knew how to game the system to get rapid entry into Detox. So our plan was that I should go buy a bunch of heroin, do it, and then go to an ER in a smaller, nicer town nearby, say I'm suicidal, and then they have to keep you for 24 hours for observation, and then, I'd go into withdrawal, and then I get kind of like expedited entry to a detox facility, which is funny because that's exactly how it ended up in detox the first time without even planning it. So I did a bunch of heroin, got really fucking high, and he brought me to this emergency room. I went in, I told them I'm suicidal, and even though I was feeling really, really good, this is all fucked up by the way, I shouldn't even laugh at this, but anyway, they give me my own little cozy room. It's a nice hospital. And I got my little hospital socks, which I love, and a gown, and some juice boxes, and watched TV. And it was all very nice for the first however the fuck long until I went into withdrawal. So once I started getting legitimately sick, they took me to this lower level in the same hospital, which was like a small detox / psych ward. And I was really sick, but I definitely exaggerated my symptoms as much as possible so I could get a nice big fat dose of methadone and whatever the fuck else. And my wish came true. They gave me a shitload of methadone and benzos, so I was actually blacked out the majority of my time there. But after a few days, they start tapering down, and I started feeling incredibly fucking claustrophobic. Like, there were no windows, we had no outdoor time, and worst of all, I couldn't fucking smoke. So I was becoming increasingly unhinged, but I had signed off my right to leave for 7 days or something. And I could do a whole fucking video about my experience at this place because it was unbelievably ridiculous. But yeah, so one day the nurse gave me Ritalin by accident. I swear to God, my whole fucking life. And I went full psycho. I got in a screaming match with the nurse who literally said, "Why do you even care? You put all kinds of nasty shit in your body." It was a fucking disaster. And then the doctor, like, pulled me into his office, like, main doctor there, to try to calm me down. And because of the whole shit show, and I was like, "I'm gonna fucking sue you," they let me leave early. But yeah, fucking disaster. So after that, I managed to stay clean for like 2 or 3 weeks or something. But that kind of all went out the window the second I like ran into my dealer. Plus, you know, you're out. I'm like, oh, my tolerance is down. Yippee! I'll probably be able to get like a nice buzz. Plus, my boyfriend at the time was still using, and few things are as unpleasant as being a newly sober addict watching other people take drugs in front of you. Even though at the time I was like, no, it's cool. I'm cool. I don't care. But yeah, I did the drugs. So I went back to Percocet, and, you know, drinking every day again, and then went back to heroin not that long after. But before things got completely out of control, 2 of our junkie friends had gone on Suboxone, and I was only, like, I hadn't been using that long again, so I hadn't built up a large tolerance, so they gave me some Suboxone, and I actually was able to get high off of it. So I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna go on fucking Suboxone. Like, then I'll be able to get high and not have to worry about buying drugs. It'll be great. So I found a sketchy doctor and greatly exaggerated my current level of heroin usage so I could get the highest dose possible. And it worked. I was prescribed 24 milligrams a day, which is 3 strips. My plan was to take them, get fucked up, and then sell extras. But Suboxone itself pretty fucking addictive, so, you know, I'm taking it every day and don't really have the choice of stopping. And I tried to do Percocet and heroin while I was on Suboxone, but it's basically fucking impossible to get high once you've been on Suboxone for a few months. And if I had known that, I don't think I would have even gone on them in the first place. But it probably ended up saving my life. So since opiates were out of the question, I started going on more Adderall binges where I take like hundreds of milligrams of Adderall, stay awake for days, drawing, writing songs, and just being fucking psychotic and paranoid. But I would spend like 12 hours drawing like these crazy intricate pictures, which I can't fucking finish a picture to save my life without Adderall. So I was looking through my old diaries and they look fucking insane. Because I was fucking insane. Literally losing my mind. It got so bad. I remember once me and my ex were up for days and like we thought we were being secretly recorded and spied on. And one night we were letting some random person stay on our couch and we both had been on Adderall and not sleeping for a couple of days. I was convinced that someone was trying to break into our house through the ceiling, which is insane. So all night we were checking the ceiling and my ex had a baseball bat ready to attack our hallucinated intruder. But this poor random guy who was on our couch probably freaked the fuck out because like 30 times throughout the night we'd abruptly like bust open the door and run out with a baseball bat, and it was like right where he was and we'd scare the shit out of him like each time. Yeah, just crazy. And this was a full year before I started smoking crack, so my diary from that time is also very interesting. But anyway, I was never physically addicted to Adderall, but I was in a perpetual state of binging and crashing that was pretty fucking debilitating. And I was psychotic, literally psychotic. And my ex was doing all the same shit, and he also had mental health issues. So we had a lot of very crazy, unstable nights. Like, there was one night, we're actually engaged. He had proposed to me after 3 months of dating. And one night he said something about maybe we should postpone the wedding, given that we're literally strung out drug addicts. And I was so hurt, I went down to my apartment and I broke every single glass and bottle I had. And then I hit myself repeatedly with the broken glass. And I still have scars all over my legs from it. We were both pretty involved in music still at that point. So I was still playing shows and touring, and there was one night where I played a show back in Providence, and I took a shitload of 5-ounce Adderall and then drank a bunch of whiskey, and the guy who had given me heroin for the first time was actually there with his 17-year-old girlfriend. Maybe she was 18 by then. And I ended up hooking up with him, and it was the only time I've ever cheated on anyone, and I've been in like non-monogamous relationships, so it didn't occur to me how horrible that would be, but I felt awful. And I told my boyfriend right when we got back, and that definitely damaged our relationship. It's also something I would have never done unless I was extremely fucked up. And I also found out that at one point, even though they didn't physically cheat on me, they were talking to a girl behind my back. Yeah, so I'm not just the bad one. I was just worse. Oh my god. Also, I'm not positive on the timelines of like any of this because I was on a lot of drugs and whatnot. But at some point, especially anytime I tried not to do drugs, I ended up developing an eating disorder to fill the void or something. Because my weight had fluctuated by like 20 pounds, give or take, like over the years. Especially when I was an alcoholic, I gained some weight. And I didn't really notice it until it was pointed out to me by some lovely people. And so at some point I started like exercising compulsively and like getting high off that. And I ended up weighing like 100 pounds, just on the smaller side. I also later developed bulimia, which was especially toxic because I worked in a lot of restaurants where you could have like all the food you want. So for a while I was working at this diner, and this is during a moment when I lapsed from being vegan. I was vegan, it was free. It was very stupid. And I was eating dairy at the time, so I would like mush up a bunch of cake, ice cream, baklava, bottles of whipped cream, and I would just fucking eat and eat and eat and throw up and then go eat some more. Like, especially anytime it was slow at the diner, that was my shit. So yeah, basically anything that can be wrong with a person was wrong with me. And to exasperate everything, I was still doing a lot of bath salts. And because there was a guy in our building who made them, he was a chemist, and there was this one point where he misdosed a large batch of the 4-ACO DMT chocolates he would make, so he gave it to us for free, and we would just eat them all the time and go insane, never knowing how much we were taking. And I had a lot of bad trips, but some good ones too. And I also went through a nasty nitrous oxide phase where we'd buy like a tank or dozens of whipped cream cans, and I even was puffing dust off at one point.
I wish I had a father.
Yeah, and I worked at a series of cafes, so I would do whippets on the job all the time. As you can imagine, I went through a lot of different jobs during this time period. Also, at one point, a friend and I got wasted, and we actually broke into one of our old jobs. We rationalized it because the owner had sexually harassed both of us. So I broke the window with a brick, and I sliced my arm really bad while I was reaching in to unlock the door. I still have a scar from that night. But we couldn't get in the register, so we just stole a ton of whipped cream canisters and grape leaves. So it was late in like 2014 or 2015 that me and my ex broke up for the first time. And I moved to a nearby town, and I was pretty fucked up around that time. And this was when I started being a stripper, which then led to me getting addicted to a huge amount of Xanax and smoking crack. But that's the whole fucking can of worms, so I don't think it's gonna fit in a 15-minute video. So, to be continued.
Back to Connecticut. Happy birthday to you. Mr. President. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. JFK. All right, that's all we got. All right. Roll.